Commemoration of the fallen sub-branch member, Mr. Phil Cheek.
O Lord, through the mouth of your prophet, you declared that all souls are yours. We thank you for the brave and faithful dead who willingly laid down their lives on the battlefield in war, or succumbed to the perils of the deep or of the air. We bless you for the dauntless courage of those defenders of our Commonwealth who have fallen in the cause of truth and righteousness. In your hands, O Father, we leave their departed spirits. Grant us to follow in their good example, in faithfulness and endurance, even unto death, that we may with them be found worthy of the crown of everlasting life.
First up, Pambula School captains.
I am here today to show my respect to the soldiers who have and are fighting for us at war right now. Imagine if we did not have soldiers fighting for us. We would not have a roof to sleep under, water to drink, food to eat, and no freedom to just go outside to kick a football or just have a cup of coffee. Some children and adults around the world do not get this freedom because they live in war zones. So for a moment, please take the time to think how lucky we are. In these places, children only a few years older than myself have to go to war because they do not live in such a wonderful place. They have no choice. I can't imagine how frightening it would have been for a loved one or someone only a few years older than myself getting a call to say, pack your bags, you are going to war. Because of our great soldiers, who fought for our freedom, that does not happen anymore in our lucky country. I'm going to recite a poem called ANZAC Day, written by D. Hunter, because for me, it sums up exactly what ANZAC Day is about. I saw a kid marching with medals on his chest. He marched alongside diggers, marching 6 abreast. He knew that it was ANZAC Day. He walked along with pride. He did his best to keep in step with the diggers by his side. And when the march was over, the kid looked rather tired. The digger said, "Whose medals, son?" To which the kid replied, "They belonged to Daddy, but he did not come back. He died up in New Guinea on a lonely jungle track." The kid looked rather sad, then a tear came to his eye. The digger said, "Don't cry, my son, and I will tell you why. Your daddy marched with us today, all the blooming way. We diggers know that he was there, it's like that on ANZAC Day." The kid looked rather puzzled and didn't understand, but the digger went on talking and started to wave his hand. "For this great land we live in, there's a price we have to pay, for we all love fun and merriment in this country where we live. The price was that some soldier his precious life must give. For you to go to school, my lad, and worship God at will, someone had to pay the price, so the diggers paid the bill. Your daddy died for us, my son, for all things good and true. I wonder if you understand the things I've said to you." The kid looked up at the digger just for a little while, and with a changed expression, said with a lovely smile, "I know my dad marched here today. This is ANZAC Day. I know he did, all the blooming way. Thank you."
Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, current serving and returned servicemen and women. I'd like to recite a poem called Sir by Damien Morgan. Sir, would it help if I shed a tear? I swear it's the first time since this time last year. My spine is a tinkle, my throat is all dry, as I stand to attention for all those who died. I watch the flag dancing halfway down the pole. That damn bugle player sends chills to my soul. I feel the pride and the sorrow, there's nothing the same as standing to attention on ANZAC Day. So, sir, on behalf of the young and the free, will you take a message when you finally do leave? To your mates that are lying from Tobruk to the Somme, the legend of your bravery will always live on. I've welcomed Olympians back to our shore. I've cheered baggy green caps and watched wallabies score. But when I watch you marching, sir, in that parade, I know these are the memories that never will fade. So, sir, on behalf of the young and the free, will you take a message when you finally do leave? It's the least we can do, sir, to repay the debt. We'll always remember you, sir, lest we forget. To me, ANZAC Day is a day dedicated to remembering servicemen and women who have been wounded or killed serving both at home and overseas, and the sacrifices both they and their loved ones have made for this country. It is because of these sacrifices all Australians have the opportunity to get an education, speak freely, and have the right to make their own life choices. Thank you.
Bloomin Christian Catholic College.
We gather today to commemorate those who have served and fallen in war, knowing their pain and suffering often transcends the battlefields. This is not a day of celebration, but of national memory, a day when we recollect the horror of senseless war, a day that recalls the carnage, the bravery, and the lives lost. We not only pay tribute, but recognise the physical and psychological trauma inflicted upon survivors and their families. The Greek playwright Aeschylus wrote, "In our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart until in our own despair, against our will comes wisdom through the awful grace of God." Post-traumatic stress disorder is a reality for many war veterans. The horrors of where they served, the cold nights they endured, and the friends they lost haunting their days and dreams. Ian Record, my grandfather, was one such soldier, serving in Korea with the 3rd Royal Australian Regiment opposing a numerically superior Chinese force at the Battle of Kapyong. Following his return to Australia after the conflict, my grandfather crafted humorous stories to protect his children from the cruel truths of war. One such story involved Japanese submarines causing havoc with the Navy in Tokyo Harbour. Grandad supposedly applied black paint to the periscope, and when the submarine surfaced in confusion, threw a grenade, conveniently stowed in his back pocket down the hatch. A tall story, as Australians were not actually fighting the Japanese during the Korean War. However entertaining these stories were, their purpose was to hide the gruesome memories that many of us cannot begin to contemplate. The brutality of war is to always be remembered and mourned, but never idolised or glorified. We can honour the sacrifices of servicemen and women and lament their passing, knowing that the greatest honour we can give back to them is the commitment that the horrors of war will seldom be repeated. We do well to heed the words of American Senator Robert Kennedy, who said, "What we need in the world is not division. What we need in the world is not hatred. What we need in the world is not violence or lawlessness, but love and wisdom, and compassion toward one another and a feeling of justice toward those who still suffer." We need to make sure that the casualty list does not get any longer after the combat is over. Thank you.
Eden High School.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Since 1945, the suffering and bravery of prisoners of war while creating the Thai-Burma Railway has come to occupy a central place in Australia's national memory of the Second World War, and this year marks its 70th anniversary.
Hellfire Pass was the name given to the railway cutting 415 kilometres long on the former Death Railway in the thick jungles of Thailand. It was built by forced labour in the Second World War, in part by the Allied prisoners of war.
The railway pass was so named because when looking down on the work area at night, lit by oil pot lamps and bamboo or wood fires, it looked as though the workers were working in the jaws of hell, thus earning it the name Hellfire Pass.
The Australian, British, Dutch and other Allied prisoners of war were required by the Japanese to work 18-hour shifts to complete the cutting, with the threat of death if a prisoner didn't comply. Work continued 24 hours a day, all through the night, with the use of the oil pot lamps and wood or bamboo fire that helped to earn the cutting its name.
These Allied prisoners of war were forced to live in terrible conditions, often starving, with no medical supplies at hand. This resulted in a high death rate, with more than 2,800 Australians perishing during the construction of Hellfire Pass. 69 of these men were beaten to death by their Japanese guards during the time it took to build the cutting. Many more died from serious diseases, dysentery, malaria, beriberi, and an outbreak of cholera.
The deprivation, exhaustion, starvation, and lack of access to adequate accommodation and sanitation also played a contributing role in the death of all these brave young men who helped to build the Hellfire Pass.
In fact, over 60,000 Allied prisoners of war were forced to work on the railway, and an astonishing 16,000 of them perished as a result of the above hardships.
Originally, the Japanese estimated that it would take the prisoners of war 5 to 6 years to finish the line, but it did not. Building over the decaying bodies of the dead while being forced to work at an inhumane speed showed their sheer mettle. The line took a mere 16 months to complete. The time it took only reinforced the extreme intensity that our young heroes were forced to work at for long hours, regardless of their human condition.
The railway cutting was finished well before its estimated date on October 17, 1943, but only operated an average of 6 trains a day, well below its expected contribution, although being so far ahead of its time frame. All this effort and hardship seemed futile.
And although the Royal Air Force continually bombed the railway during the Burma campaign, the railway continued to run until the final victory of the Allied forces in August 1945.
Although all this suffering and hardship was faced by the Australian and Allied troops, it was not in vain. The Hellfire Pass has gained its place in our national memory due to the bravery shown by the Allied troops who were forced to work on the cutting. Today marks its 70th anniversary, and we celebrate their bravery and thank them for facing that hardship for our freedom. Today we remember, lest we forget.
National anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and well.